Waiting notification. Okay, there we go. Okay, boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this evening. We have an incredible guest with us tonight, one who's going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than Student Minister Reuben Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam, Brother Joshua. Thank you for the honor and the blessing of being a part of your program. I'm a big fan.
I think that means so much to me.
I'm a big fan, and I'm always I always feel blessed, listening to the guests and the exchanges that take place on your program. So I consider it an honor and a blessing. Thank you, sir.
All praises to that means a lot to me, sir. And my sister Miriam sends the greetings, sir.
Please return the greetings, and please. I don't know if he'll remember me, but if you could also extend or return the greetings to our dear brother Abdul Sharif Muhammad, who was one of the lieutenants under Student Captain Shahid Muhammad when he was the Supreme Captain, and he made a big impact on my life as well. So I just want to always give the greetings and show respect and honor when I get the opportunity.
All praise to yes, sir. My sister Naima sends the greetings. Captain Deshane Muhammad sends the greetings as well. Okay, great.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes,
please
sir.
Return the greetings. Wa alaikum salam to everyone. I don't know if you can hear me or see me.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah.
Now, bro, Minister, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
First hear the teachings. That was in 1989. Around May of 1989, I was a freshman at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. And I was a part of, at the time, I was a part of an ROTC program where I had served already 4.5 years active duty in the United States Navy, and had gotten picked up for an officer training program and got accepted into USC as an electrical engineering major. And so the deal was, or the plan was, that after graduating, I would return to active service as a commissioned officer in the United States Navy. But before my freshman year was over with, I was, make a long story short, I was introduced to the teachings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The first time I heard his voice, well, I have to include this, I'm sorry. I have to go back. I was on the campus with some of the frat brothers and the conscious folks on the campus, an area where we were known to hang out and subsequently became known by the white students as the Crow's Nest. But I'm fresh. I had never heard of the Nation of Islam up to this point, right? And so I'm listening and I'm, appreciating being around the conscious brothers, the frat brothers, the alphas, the omegas, and, some of the other adjacent, woke adjacent types.
Yes, sir.
And they're going back and forth about Huey P. Newton, and everybody's going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And, Malcolm X, and yeah, yeah, yeah. And Martin Luther King. And then there's one brother, he's a Q from Omega Psi Phi. I won't say his name because I don't want to put him out there because I haven't spoken to him in a while. But he said, yeah, those brothers were fine by that time, but Farrakhan is the man for today. And they was like, yeah, yeah. And I'm going, yeah, yeah, yeah. Not because I knew, I just didn't want to seem like the only one that doesn't know what I was talking about.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
So that sparked me to just hearing that name, Farrakhan. Man, what kind of name is that? I need to find out who this is. The way these people are talking about him, I need to go find out who this is. So I went on a quest, and for about a few weeks, every day after school and after work, on the way home, I would drive down the boulevards looking for places that sold Farrakhan tapes, right? And I would get to one place, I'd walk in there, you got Farrakhan tapes in there? And they said, well, no, we got Haile Selassie. I said, nah, I'm looking for Farrakhan. Another place, you on there, they got, you got Farrakhan tapes? No, we got Marcus Garvey. I said, nah, yeah, I'll take one of those, but I'm really looking for Farrakhan. Right? So this goes on for about a week until one day I happened on this place on Vermont and 57th Street in Los Angeles. And it had a big, big star and crescent painted in the window. And it said Life Force Video. And I walked in there and I see like a wall of video, VHS tapes, with a case on the wall.
Yes, sir.
And to my right, as I walk in, there's a TV monitor with the volume kind of turned down. And to my left, behind the counter, is a short, stocky, bald-headed black man with a styrofoam cup or something. I said, excuse me, brother, do y'all have Farrakhan tapes? Do y'all sell Farrakhan tapes? He said, brother, that's all we got. So it was, I knew I had found what I was looking for. And now, mind you, I'm still a part of this ROTC scholarship program and still attached to the United States military, albeit at this time on reserve, because they discharge you from active service and put you on reserve so you can go through this college program.
Yes, sir.
But that was the day I first got my first membership, where I started renting tapes of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, 1, 2, sometimes 3 every day, every night, listening to his teachings and words. And when I think the first one I brought home was Black Male and Endangered Species at Compton College. And when this man started talking, you know how he customarily would start off very easy and very light spirited, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm feeling that. But when he got going, and the spirit just started coming forth, and the power of his conviction, my mouth literally hung open, and I'm like, who is this? Who is this man, and how come I've never heard of him before? Right? So, again, sort of abbreviated a little bit. This went on for about the whole summer after my freshman year.
Yes, sir. So
that, like I said, almost every night, 2 tapes a night. And my brother Cam will tell you if he's, I don't know if he's watching, but he'll tell you that I used to get on his nerves, because at that time it was like, there were so many of us in the house we grew up in, we didn't have a whole lot of room to ourselves. So if I'm up watching the tapes, everybody else has to hear it too. And he was like, man, I ain't trying to hear that, man. I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to get some sleep. But I couldn't help myself. I had to learn all I could about this man, Farrakhan, and what he was saying. So it came eventually to a point where in my mind and in my spirit, I knew that I had to make a decision with respect to the direction of my life. And before the next school year started, I made a decision to go in and tell my commanding officer at that time. I had to fill out what they call a DOR, disenrollment on request. And the reason being because I had recently accepted Islam as my religion. And also at that time, the young lady I was with in a relationship, we were expecting a baby. So I figured I'd better try and, stay as close to home as possible and try and take care of my responsibility. So that is another story in and of itself. I don't know how much time we have, but getting straight to the point. I went there and I said, now this is my first exposure. I haven't been to the mosque yet. The whole summer was just watching videos of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so I go, eventually I knew I had to face it, because what he said and what he put in my ear and in my heart was so convicting and convincing and so penetrating that I knew that I couldn't keep going in the direction that I was going, because from the beginning, all I ever wanted was to be with God in the first place. And this was seeming more and more like the answer to my prayer, even though I didn't understand it all, right? But what I heard was enough to strengthen me to take a stand on what I believe. And it wasn't an easy transition. But when I went to tell them that I couldn't do this anymore, because as I told one of the lieutenants that I could, when you do this kind of a thing, that you have to go through basically what a psych evaluation, but they call them interviews, to see if you're really about what you're saying, or are you just faking to try to get out of an obligation. And I didn't know how this thing was going to turn out. As I'm walking up to the building and I'm listening, all I can hear is what the minister is saying, and just bits and pieces of words that I've heard from him. And I know I got to do this. I just know it. And I don't know how it's going to end up. I don't know if I'm going to walk out of the building the same way I walk in. I don't know anything. All I know is I have to go and tell these people I can't give you any more of my time. And so I had to go through these interviews over the next couple of weeks. And there was one Caucasian lieutenant who, as they began to question me, and I would just return to them something from what I heard the minister say. And he said, so let me get this straight. Here you are with the world, as it were, at your fingertips. And you're willing to throw all of that away for nothing? And I said to him, sir, with all due respect, what does it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And so he didn't have an answer for that. I suppose he understood where I was coming from, right? And so that was the lieutenant. But in order to complete the process, there was a few more interviews. And the last one was with the colonel, a Marine Corps colonel, who was the head of the unit, right? And, it's like when you playing video games, they send the little minions out after you first, but if you beat all of them, you got to see the big boss. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So here I was sitting in the office of the big boss with all the little, naval heritage memorabilia and everything. And he's sitting in there and he said, what's the problem? I said, sir, I can't do this anymore. And I'm going to, again, abbreviating the conversation, but it boiled down to my place is with my God and my people. Oh, okay. And I don't see how I can fulfill that obligation being a part of this. I don't have a problem being a part of a military as such, but I do have a problem with being a part of a military that is the tool of a wicked government. Look, I'm telling you, only thing coming out of my mouth is what went in my ears from Farrakhan. So it made it, really easy as long as I stayed true to what I heard from him and what I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, of course, he comes and he says, but you signed a contract. I said, yes, sir, I signed a contract, but I signed it when I was I signed it in ignorance, is what I said. Mm-hmm. And I don't think my God would hold me accountable for something I did in ignorance. Mm-hmm. And he said, but you have an obligation. You signed it. I said, yes, sir, that's right. But as I said, I don't think my God would hold me to a decision I made in ignorance because I'm not in my right mind. And so we started kind of going back and forth, and I started getting a little irritated. But I stayed respectful as I could. But I said, at one point, I said, sir, again, with all due respect, let me save us both some time. You can lock me up if that's what you feel that you need to do. Mm-hmm. You can put me in front of a firing squad if that's what you feel you need to do. But I'm here to say that I'm not going to give you any more of my time. And so he said, well, that voice they use. Mm-hmm. He said, well, we don't use firing squads during peacetime. I said, okay, that's fine, but I'm letting you know where I stand. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. So mind you, I still don't know how this is going to turn out, but I have to tell this man what's on my heart and what's in my spirit, so I can be true to myself and look myself in the mirror and know that I've stood on what I believe in.
Yes, sir.
From the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so that went for a little while, and he found the door shut everywhere he tried to get in, so to speak. And after a while, he began to wind it down. And we started to close it down, and he's walking me to his door. And he said, "Well, Miller," because that was my slave name. "Well, Miller, truth is, we both serve the same God. It's just that I call him Jesus Christ and you call him Allah." I said, "Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir." And I walked out. And so I walked out of his office down this hallway towards the exit. And as Allah is my witness, as I'm walking out of the building into the light of the sun, I said, "Allahu Akbar." And not knowing yet even how this was going to end up. But I did what I went there to do, which was to make a stand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To
take a stand and let them know, without trying to run, without trying to be deceptive, just being very blunt, as respectfully as I could, but being very frank. This is where I am. This is who I am. This is what I am, and I don't belong to you anymore, basically. So I went home that day, but I'm thinking, okay, now what are they going to do? What card are they going to play now? And so a couple of weeks go by, and I get a letter in the mail from the Department of Defense. I said, "Oh my God, here they come. They're coming for me." They decided to take me up on my challenge, right? And so I opened up the letter, asking a lot of, just get, help me to just not get so excited, and just, help me to just experience this, whatever it is, to be able to accept it and experience it. So I opened it up, and inside was what is called a Form DD 214, discharge papers. And I looked down at what the category type, it said honorable. I said, "Allahu Akbar." So that was the foundation, or the backdrop, for my coming to the mosque. Now, when I finally did come to the mosque, it wasn't to hear a lecture, because I had already heard 3 months or so of a whole summer's worth of lectures from the best teacher we got, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. When I came to the mosque, I came for that part at the end when they said, "How many of you believe that what you heard is the truth and good for us as a people?" And so that was my orientation or indoctrination, entry into the Nation of Islam in a nutshell.
Oh, praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Excellent.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah.
And people showing you love all across the country. Sister Sajida Bay says, "No longer their nigger. Go ahead, black man. That's all we like to speak is truth and falsehood." Sister Mina from Los Angeles sends greetings. Walaikum salam, ma'am. People just showing you love all across the country.
Praise be to Allah.
Can't wait to put this on YouTube, and everybody let us know what city you're watching from on YouTube, please, as well.
Praise be to Allah.
Now, yes, sir. My next question for you, Minister, is when you came in the ranks, how did your family and friends feel about you accepting the teachings?
Well, how our family and friends respond to our accepting the teaching has a lot to do with how we accept the teachings. And so, in other words, sometimes we cause pushback by the way we express ourselves, and it's kind of like a freshly struck match. When you first strike that match, and you go,
yes, sir, yes, sir,
all over the place, right? And after a moment or two, it settles down to an even burn, right? Well, I was that fresh struck match, and I wasn't as bad as some that I've heard about, but I was definitely the one on the block that every time they saw me coming, "Oh, here you come with that Farrakhan stuff." I found out though. After joining the Nation of Islam, that my mother used to listen to the minister on the radio while let me get this right. It was either while she was carrying me or right after I was born. I think it was a little after I was born, but she said that she, sometimes your parents will share with these things with you, but not because they really are wanting to share it with you. It's sometimes sort of a, yeah, I know about that. I used to listen to him on the radio. I said, okay, so I'm like, may Allah be pleased with her. I love her and I thank Allah for her. But at that time, I was like, you mean you knew about this man and you didn't say not one word about him to any of us? My grandparents were very, very devout Christians, and we grew up in their household most of our lives, me and my sibling. And so naturally, they had certain concerns and anxieties, and only because they probably didn't know too much about it or didn't understand it well enough. And I didn't help, with my firebrand type, recklessness almost. But I found out a few years after that, around, I don't know if you remember, there was a debate that Brother Khalid, may Allah be pleased with him, had with a Christian preacher in Inglewood, California, at Inglewood High School. There was a debate between those two, and leading up to that, of course, we were trying to prepare, and I was living in Inglewood at the time. And my father, who I hadn't seen in years, but I always had this funny feeling that we were about to cross paths, and I couldn't explain it. I kind of feel like, okay, something's coming. We're going to cross paths. And sure enough, on the day of the debate, when I was actually living close enough to walk to Inglewood High School to, report for duty for security for that event, walking up there, I ran into none other than my father after maybe about 10 years or so, or maybe a little less. But when he saw me suited and booted, he said, "So you in the nation, huh?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "I almost joined the nation." I said, "Huh? You too? You mean you all knew about this, man? You all knew about this teaching and you didn't say anything to us? Man, I'm really having some issues right now about this whole thing."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But, aside from that, my family, on my father's side, they didn't think too much about it because, my father's side of the family was more, how can we say, a little streetwise, right? Where my mother's side of the family is a little more conservative, a little more, apostolic and all of that. So they had the most visible reaction, but they were very careful not to try and crush my enthusiasm and my belief out of respect for me because they love me, right? And so I appreciated that, but it's just this. I would imagine this same sort of difficulties or reactions that most of us have when we join the nation, and our families don't really understand much about what it is that we've accepted right away. Over time, they may get a better idea when they see us becoming better persons, better human beings. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. All praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. Now, Brother Minister, what was it like in those early days where the Most Honorable Minister was Farrakhan? He seemed like he was always pathology to hypocrisy. He was always on the West Coast or something, LA. He was always out there. What was it like in the early days to have such access to the minister at you all's disposal, speaking live and in person?
Well, that was. But before I say that, before I get into that, Brother Josh, and I don't want to betray the statement I made earlier about how honored I am to be here, but I would much rather, be referred to as Brother Student Minister or Brother Reuben,
yes, sir.
or just simply Brother Reuben, because
okay, yes, sir, no problem.
For your protection and mine, and for that of any who might be listening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But to get to your question. As a young Muslim, particularly coming up as a lieutenant under Brother Student Captain Shaheed, who of course was one of the bedrocks of the E team,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, yes, we did get have the benefit of certain access to certain situations and scenarios and insights and training that was just mind-blowing. And to this day, it still is, because sometimes you don't realize the value of what you've been given until you're put in a situation that demands that you call on it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And what our dear brother, Student Captain Shahid, may Allah be pleased with him, what he gave us was some very good training, some very specialized training. I don't mean to say that in the way of on the same level as the E-team, but I mean, what he gave us and the way he trained us is still a part of my character. It's still a part of who I am. Even as a student minister, now I have to hold myself back and not, I have to let, I'm learning how to work with my student captain here in Greensboro, but, have to step back and, because I'm so used to having my military hat on, right? But we have a student captain whose lane that is now. So I have to learn how to not, get in his way, right? And learning my own post, and in that regard, I want to say I thank Allah for Student Minister Abdul Qadir Muhammad for his mentorship and his help and his training, and the brothers of the student ministry class of the Mid-Atlantic region, who have been nothing but supportive of me because I'm relatively new to the post. And in that regard, I also want to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Executive Council and Student Minister Ishmael and all of those who may have had a say in whether or not I should be in this position, and allowed me an opportunity to serve in this capacity, to render a greater degree and a greater level of service, and which brings with it obviously a greater degree of responsibility and duty, which I hope, with the help of Allah, I'll be able to satisfy. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. All praise due to Allah. And people are showing you all love, showing you love all across the country.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah.
Okay, yes, sir. My next question for you, sir, is your brother, your both brothers and your family members. How were you? What was it? How did your siblings? How were you all able to accept the teachings? Once you came in, how were you able to get the rest of your family to understand?
Ooh, well, let me say this. Our mother was on her way to accepting the teaching, slowly but surely. My two sisters, one returned to Allah when I was in the 8th grade, and so she never got a chance to hear it. My second oldest sister, pardon me, she's 2 years younger than me, or was 2 years younger than me. May Allah be pleased with her. She was on her way, but she ran into some emotional difficulties, and ultimately not in some ways getting the help that she needed, and us not really understanding how deeply she must have been affected by whatever it was that was bothering her. She returned to Allah, I think, in 2013. So that leaves myself, in terms of our mother's children, myself, Cam, and Marcus. So, of course, I was the first one in the family.
Yes, sir.
To accept the teachings. And my brother, Cam, or Craig, as I know him, but don't you go calling him that now, because
never thought about calling him Craig.
Right. But I've been trying to share it with him for some time, and he was just, his focus was somewhere else, trying to get his music thing together and tight. And I understood that, and I didn't want to seem too pushy. But at a certain point, he ran into a trial, and he's spoken on it before, but I won't go into the details of it. But where he was really in a really difficult situation medically, And all of his friends, I shouldn't say all, but the circle of friends that he was hanging around at the time, while he was going through that, they weren't around. Right. And I was the one who was there trying to, help him to see, there's a better way. The teachings is what we need. And this is something that you really need to think about. And so I didn't want to try and convert him on the hospital beds necessarily, but he did start thinking about it. And after that, subsequently, he began to take it on himself, and begin studying himself. And Marcus, my younger brother, we were like his not surrogate, but like almost like substitute father figures, because he was so young compared to us, right? And our biological father, just was not around to do that. So we had to try and pick up the slack. Naturally, he's going to look up to us and kind of incline towards what he sees his older brothers inclining toward. And so we thank Allah that all of our mother's surviving children are helpers and followers and students of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. All praises due to
Allah. To Allah.
Yes, sir. Great. That's great. Okay, and brother student Minister Reuben,
yes,
being from Watts or LA and the Comptons, traveling all of, everything
yes,
on the West Coast now to where you are in Greensboro. Have
yes,
you ever been
sir.
faced with fear? And if so, how did you overcome that fear?
Faced with fear since I've been here?
No, just fear since in your whole life, like, from...
Oh my goodness, yes. I have, okay, this is going to be a bit challenging. I have had guns pointed at me. I have been in a scuffle, I should say, with local law enforcement. That's not something I'm saying to brag. I'm just saying that these are things that will test your mettle and test your faith. And if the motive, sometimes standing is one thing, but standing from a right motive is best. Because if you stand your ground, but your ground is not, rooted in a righteous motive, then the strength of your stand is weakened, right? If you're right, you can fight, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan would share with us. But when you're wrong, you can't be strong, or something like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, yes. To have someone who is pointing a gun in your chest, and may have a proclivity to pull the trigger out of fear of nothing else, that can startle you, that can frighten you. But you call on Allah, right? And I asked him to help me to stand firm, right? Now, I didn't handle the situation in the best way. And, they say, God takes care of babies and fools.
Yes, sir.
And I was a little bit of both back at that time, because at that time I hadn't registered. I hadn't gotten my X yet, but I was on my way, right? But that's something that will let you know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and you have to. It forces you to ask yourself the question: is this something that I'm willing to put my life on the line for? Right? Because at any time we could be called to answer our oath. As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
It's easy to say. But when we find ourselves in a position where now we're in a position where we are confronted with the reality that we may not make it home. This could be it right here. Yes, how do we handle that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said to us, we could be made afraid, but we must challenge our fear.
That's right. That's right.
There was an instance when I mentioned the scuffle with the local law enforcement. This was in 1990. And I remember we were surrounded by a pretty large number of them. And these butterflies were just working on me, man. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? This really about to go down or what have you? And then it sort of, I won't say it was a voice, but it was kind of like a voice that says, look, this is just accept the fact that you're not getting out of this without a fight. This is going to happen. And when I accepted that and asked Allah to be with me and us, the butterflies went away. Now, we ended up being arrested, or I should say taken into custody. So, it's not like we just fought and walked away and went about our business. They got the upper hand at that time, but Allah spared our lives, which I'm grateful for.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But what I regret to this day is that served as a justification for another provocation a few weeks later, where our dear brother Oliver X. Beasley lost his life. And so I always felt partly responsible, not because I was in charge of what happened on the day of our scuffle, but the fact that I was there and I was a participant in something that would put in motion a chain of, or what they say, a series of events.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That he ultimately would come back again and revisit us in another confrontation where a believer in Allah lost his life. And so that taught me a dual lesson, that we have to be willing at any time to put our lives on the line for Allah and his righteousness' sake. But at the same time, we have to make sure that our motives are right, because if not, it can cause someone to lose their life that didn't need to lose their life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? This is not a game. We're not playing house. This is real.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You see? And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said once that sometimes we bring things on ourselves by the immature or I think that's the word he used, by the way we mishandle situations. Not having proper training, or not having the proper motivation, or being more ego-driven than spirit-driven. That's not going to turn out good. So I know that kind of went beyond the bounds of your question, but in terms of, yes, there are things that can make you afraid. But as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said to us in his lecture, Fear, Faith, and Truth.
Yes, sir.
We just can't let things and circumstances punk us.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean we won't get a knot on the head. It doesn't mean we won't spend some time in a jail cell. But it means that our integrity to ourselves as believers, as servants of the Most High God, is more important than anything else. Right? And I'm not saying that because I've mastered it. I'm just saying these are lessons that I'm still learning and reflecting on, because if I'm going to be true to the post that I'm being allowed to serve in now, those lessons now take on much more value, because we're even closer now to the battle in the sky and the battle on the ground even.
Yes, sir.
Where we're going to have to be able to stand.
Do
we think that we're going to be left alone on saying we believe and not going to be tried?
That's right.
And indeed, those before us were tried, so that Allah will know those who are true.
That's right.
And he will know the liars. I don't want to be found a liar.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Right? That means I have to learn how to get a grip on whatever has the potential of making me afraid and fear none but Allah.
Beautiful. Excellent teaching.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We have an excellent teacher.
That's right. That's right. All praises to Allah. Sister Jita said we're fighting for Islam.
And we will surely win. That's right.
Many of us are blinded and fears there for a moment, but then it goes, all praise due to Allah. Okay. Right. Yes, sir. Okay, we have a quick 60-second commercial break by the student minister.
Yes, sir.
All of the sponsors of the People's Podcast. And then I have a question for you following up with brother Oliver X. Beasley, who I've interviewed so many believers from the West Coast. And many who I've interviewed were there. And I just wanted to hear your take on advice for the future if situations.
Yes, sir.
If you all first of all, thank you to all of the sponsors. The People's Podcast, anonymous donations from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please cash out the People's Podcast. We greatly appreciate it. My brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out if you need any of those services. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book, coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three on Amazon. Please get those. My sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country and right here in the studio in Atlanta, Georgia. Rod Communications. If you're working on a book and you need copy editing, project management, or content development, please reach out to Rod Communications. Urban Fashion Guides, 314-329-6009. He'll keep you dressed in the best of fashion. Student Minister Robert L. Muhammad out of Austin, Texas. Conflict mediation, squashing the beef throughout the Southwest region. He does a phenomenal job. His wife, Sister Fudia Muhammad, Children of the Most High, giving birth to a God in the science of child rearing. Please get her book. Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you anywhere in the nation. Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. For the Rashad Muhammad of Chicago, COVID disinfecting cleaning services. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, abdulsharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Thank you all for every sponsorship, donation, like, share, and subscription. Right back to our brother student minister Reuben. Okay, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
my next question for you is a follow-up to our brother Oliver X. Beasley. So many believers have talked about that type of situation. And I ask you, why didn't you at the LAPD? So all of the after police music and all this going on, it seemed like so much with music, LA was just seen looking back and it was such a violent situation. Why did you stay in LA? Why didn't you never move away if the police were so bad in LA?
I'm gonna get to that, but I want to sort of make up for an oversight on my part in the beginning. I must open up in the name of Allah.
Yes, sir.
The beneficent, the merciful. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. I thank him and we thank him for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, his living and exalted Christ and Mahdi. And we thank them over and over and over again for their Messiah in our midst.
Right. That's right.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the man without whom we would not be having this conversation.
That's right.
This evening. And so I'm grateful to Allah and his Christ and their Messiah for the opportunity to serve not just as a student minister, but for their staying steadfast, and for his, meaning the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for his staying steadfast long enough for a wretch like me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To have an opportunity to latch on to the truth and to learn how, I should say, to be stood up and held up until I get my balance, right? Because without that matchless mercy of Allah manifested through these men, again, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. So I have to give honor and praise to Allah for that.
Beautiful.
Now the question was, why didn't I leave LA?
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan never taught us nothing about running.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
He never taught us nothing about running. Now, if we ran, okay, but that's not something he taught us. But I'm trying to be a good student. I'm trying to be a good helper and follower. And the need is real where we are, meaning in LA at that time.
Yes, sir.
Where am I going? that I'm not going to meet the same circumstance. You know what I mean? And if I run, what does that mean about, what does that say about me and my level of faith? Either Allah is God in the West, on the West Coast too, or I'm in the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So there's no, that thought never crossed my mind to go somewhere else because of the hostility of law enforcement. We learned, and again, this is, I have to give credit where credit is due. It had a lot to do with our training of this under Student Captain Shahid Muhammad, who gave us an example of a fearless soldier for Allah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I can't say that I was fearless, but he made it easy to be able to stand, you know, and look the part. You know, when you have training, training makes the difference. You know, training and the spirit. You have to have the spirit, and that spirit, of course, comes from the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So, yeah, there was nothing like leaving because of that. Now, if I thought about leaving at LA, it had more to do with economic circumstances than running away from them. No, that's just something that, you know, you just don't. If you're a soldier, soldiers stay where they're assigned.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Until they get orders to go somewhere else. Then they relocate. Right? Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, yes, sir. Well, Brother Student Minister Reuben, let's talk about the Million Man March. What was it like leading up to that and the climate in LA? And how did it personally impact you?
Well, the climate in LA, just before the Million Man March, it was a buzz. You know, people, you know, the closer we got to the date, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is going across the country, you know, the Stop the Killing and the Let Us Make Man and the buzz, the electricity is palpable. You know, you can feel it in the air, right? And so that doesn't mean everybody was ready to get on the bus, if you know what I'm saying. But people were talking about it. And we had determined, Brother Student Cap, I'm sorry, Brother, well, we could say Student Captain, Brother Student Captain Shahid, impressed on us, his lieutenants, and the brothers in the squads. We're going to DC, and so we did everything we could. We was excited. We had a private, I shouldn't say a private, but yeah, sort of private seamstress, you know, made us some uniforms, and we went and we got there, and we were proud to be there because God's man made a call. And we wanted to be there. And the way that and you know, look, this goes back to a little bit to your question of why I didn't leave LA, you know, under the hostility of law enforcement and other elements and whatnot at that time. But I'm telling you, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, there's no way I could sit under the voice of that man and not have that spirit get in me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? So when he was telling us about, you know, the potential dangers of going to the Million Man March, you know, and because of what the reactions of white people might be, we're not going there to play. We're not going there to kumbaya and set up picnic baskets and all of that. We're going for a serious purpose. And if something goes down, I don't recall him saying that explicitly, but that's what I got from it. If something goes down, some of us may not make it back, but we got to go. Oh, you who believe, respond to Allah and his messenger when he calls you to that which gives you life, and know that Allah comes in between a man and his heart.
That's right.
So whatever thing I might have, or some of us may have been holding on to as a desire or an excuse for not going, something that we thought was more important, Allah will get in between you and the fulfillment of that desire until you submit and learn how to answer the call. So it was more important to me. I don't mean to be so passionate, but it was more important to me to be obedient. It was more important to me to be there with my minister and the brothers and our people, whatever we might have faced, it was more important for me to be there than to stay at home where it was safe. Safe.
Beautiful. Yes, sir.
You understand?
Absolutely.
And now we were there. We posted up about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning before the sun came up, and it was cold out there. And we had those Stacey Adams shoes on with the hard leather soles, and feet was hurting before the sun came up. And we had these uniforms, and we were proud to wear them. And we were assigned to, I think Student Captain Dennis had a detail checking it and inspecting the vendors' credentials. Mm. So we spent most of that day going up and down that side street. If you're looking out on the mall, it's over to, if you're looking from the Capitol out on the mall, where we were is that side street on the right, going up and down, checking the vendors and making sure if you didn't have proper credentials, you had to shut down or you got to buy one right now, you know, so to speak. And so we marched up and down that mall for almost the whole time. And when we got done with that, we had buttons that we were trying to sell to raise money for our mosque. And so that meant more walking up and down the mall. So we didn't get a chance to just stop and listen, although we could hear. But by the time it was over, I remember the sun setting behind me, I think it was. And the minister had just dismissed us. And the brothers were dispersing so peacefully. And for some reason, to this day, I don't understand, to this day, for some reason, I just started crying because I had never experienced anything like that before in my life. And I knew that it would probably be years before I could really grasp what happened that day. You know, so the profoundness of it, even though I couldn't wrap my mind around it, it affected me deeply enough where I just sat and leaned up against some Trinitron's, you know, the Jumbotron screens.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I leaned up against that thing, and it was all I could do to keep from just boo-hooing like a baby. But from then on, I just tried to be an even better helper of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that's not saying I didn't make any mistakes, because I've made plenty since then. But I've always tried to be a better helper, more of an asset to our nation and less of a liability.
Beautiful. All praises due to Allah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excellent, excellent.
Praise to Allah.
Yes, sir. And I want to thank everybody who continues to show love all across the nation, all across
Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir. My next question for you, our student minister Reuben, is what has been your greatest trial in life, and how have you been able to overcome that trial?
Wow. Ooh. Oh, God. There's like 2 or 3 of them. I'll start with the first one. Not because it's the greatest, but because it's the first one, and it's what come to my mind first.
Yes, sir.
When I got married, my first marriage, because I've been married twice before. I'm in my 3rd marriage now. But my first marriage, the one with whom my wife at that time, we had 3 children. And not only that, my sister, who I mentioned earlier, who was 2 years behind me, she had 2 children that she was not in a position to take care of. And so I talked to my wife at that time, and, she agreed that it would be good to have them grow up near family. And so it was me and her and our 3 sons and our 2 nephews, which have, by all accounts, I'm the only father that they've known. But shortly after that, when you're naive and ignorant and more ego-driven than you need to be as a young man, sometimes you make critical errors and mistakes that ill affect the woman that we say we love. And we don't always render the kind of help and support that she really needs, especially when she's the one dealing with the weight of dealing with the children while you're out saving the nation and saving the world and all of that, let us tell it. But at a certain point, she just, I just was not able to satisfy her need for a maintainer, right? I don't know what exactly her expectation was, but I know from our teaching that, if the plant dies from lack of water, then whoever's job it was to water it, you don't blame the plant, you blame the guy with the water can. Where have you been? What have you been doing with the water, right? So we ended up splitting up, and but we have to be careful in dealing with our women. We have to strive to be brothers, to be more sensitive and more considerate and more compassionate and willing to hear their concerns, especially if it gets to the point where they're willing to speak on it. That's when you really should listen, right? And I didn't always do that, right? So long story short, we parted ways, but because of how ill affected she was, she just emotionally was not prepared to look after even her own children anymore, for a long time. So I remember once when we separated, the plan was that she would and the boys would live with her mother, and I would just go and get a place and try to get myself set up, but all while still trying to be present in my children's life. And one day I went and to pick them up to take them somewhere, and I recall hearing a relative speaking to them in a way that I didn't like. So I decided to bring them with me, and so I had already secured a studio apartment, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to make this work, but I'm going to call on Allah and ask His help. And so there's me and 5 boys in a studio apartment. And I'm trying to look after them and provide for them. And, things got very difficult. Financially, things got very difficult. Emotionally, because by this time I had been, active in the mosque, for some years. And when I fell under this trial of the people that was, saluting me or clapping for me when I was up on the rostrum or whatever, now I'm in this trial and I don't get any phone calls. I don't get, it's like, what happened? But I get it. I'm not angry with anyone. I get it. But the difficulty was, being in a situation where I'm trying, figuratively speaking, I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but, sort of like trying to swim across a lake with five boys on your back. And, you can't quit. You can't quit. You can't give up, because if you quit, they all go down. Right. And so there were times when the stress and the circumstances and the stress that they caused me, that I experienced, was so intense sometimes that I didn't know that I would wake up. If I fell asleep, I'm not sure that I'll wake up in the morning. Because I got pain in my chest and things like that. And, and it was just stress. It was just stress, the stress of trying to maintain, these children with the limited resources that I had and the uncertainty of where this was all going. And sometimes I would wake up, not wake up, but I would wait until I thought they were all asleep. And I would go out in the middle of the night and walk across the street to this park and just talk to Allah and boo-hoo and complain and all of that, and asking Him, what am I supposed to do? And after I got all that out, and he let me get all that out, then it's almost like I could hear him kind of reasoning with me, or getting me to reason a little more. And I would say, okay, Allah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep going until you show me to do otherwise. There's nobody else to carry this, so I'll carry it. And again, at this time, I'm in the grips of a trial. So I'm kind of, my expression is a little dramatic. I'm looking back at it now, like, wow, did I really say that? But I said, there's no one else to carry it, so I'll carry it. I said, if it kills me, I'll carry it. But what I'm not going to do is give up on these boys. Right? Praise be to Allah. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't make any mistakes with them. It just means that I was determined not to give up on them. Right? And I thank Allah that they're all still alive today. And they all love the minister. And even though they don't particularly care for the way I tried to get it over to them, they all love and respect the minister. And like I said, one of them is a lieutenant in the Las Vegas mosque now. And Brother Jabril Muhammad, who's married to Sister Raisa, who is the daughter of Sister Charlene, who is a correspondent for the Final Call newspaper. Yeah. But I've known Sister Charlene and Brother Amin, or as I used to call him back in the day, Brother Maurice. I've known them since I was a young one at 54, and we go back. So yes, sir, we're just happy to see second and third generation Muslims coming into the world. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. And thank you for your example, Brother Student Minister Reuben. Thank you very much for your example by not giving up on those sons, man. And thank you very much, sir, for that.
Well, praise be to Allah. I thank Allah for answering my prayers, because they were many.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I don't know what kind of an example I was. I just know what I tried to be. And if you ask my sons, they could tell you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They could tell you, what type of an example they saw in me. But all I know is I was just trying to do the best that I could to keep them afloat. And I thank Allah, like I said, to this day, they're still alive and they're still doing well. And they love the minister and they love their father, and their father loves them.
Yes, sir.
And so I can't complain.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Now, on a lighter note, Mr. Reuben,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What type of music do you like to listen to?
Oh man, I'm not. I don't have a one set. I mean, I like traditional R&B. I like classical.
Yes, sir.
I like some would call new age. I like jazz. Pardon me, smooth jazz.
Yes, sir.
Lately though, I like soft instrumentals that don't necessarily lock my mind into lyrics that dictate what the imagery should be. But if I'm listening to a soft, type, relaxing type instrumental, then I can just relax and work, and let whatever the sound, in other words, I'm free to use my own creativity and my own imagination.
Yes, sir. I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So I've always listened to different kinds of music. I've never been just solely rap or solely R&B, because I came up in a household that was kind of diverse, in terms of musical taste, gospel, smooth jazz. My uncle was like a sort of a piano player. I grew up in a house with a piano in it. And my uncle, may Allah be pleased with him, he loved to just sit and play the piano. And he sounded almost like Ramsey Lewis, the way he got down on them keys. And I could sometimes when I wasn't feeling well, I would just go lay on the living room couch and listen to him play. So in other words, if it agreed with my spirit, I'd listen to it. It doesn't matter who wrote it, doesn't matter where it came from, what color they were. If it was music to my spirit, it was music for me to listen to.
Beautiful.
So, Now, with that being said, I'm not too big a fan of country and Western, but but I've heard a few pieces from that genre as well that I kind of really like. So
great, yes, sir. All right. Well, Brother Student Minister Reuben,
yes,
what
sir.
would you like your legacy to be, sir?
That's a difficult. It's simple. I don't know how to think about a legacy per se. All I really want is for Allah to be pleased with the life that I live, that He's given me to live, and to do what He put me here to do. And since I don't understand fully what that is yet, I mean, I'm so busy just trying to focus on what He has for me to do. I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about a legacy as such. I trust that Allah will take care of that. You know what I mean? I just want to be. I say to Him, you know, Allah, I don't ask for a long life, although that would be nice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. I'm not turning it down if He wants to give it to me. Right. But I just want to live that however much time that He grants me, that my life is lived in a way that's pleasing to Him. Whether it's another day, whether it's another week, whether it's another month, whether it's another 10 years, whether it's another 50 years, whatever the time is, just all I want is for that time to be spent living and giving of my life in such a way that He is pleased with. Because if He's pleased with what I do with the life that He's given me, then He'll take care of my legacy. Right? I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to think about that. I just want to, and if I may add this, my predecessor here in Greensboro, Student Minister Asim, and we thank Allah for this brother because he spent the last 30 years of his life helping he and the student laborers with him, working to open up the city of Greensboro in terms of setting up an established mosque in this city. And he, you know, and those who have labored with him and those who have worked with him by Allah's permission have set up a legacy of sorts. Because to my knowledge, I don't know that there was ever a mosque in Greensboro before. You know, they were blessed to open one. So that in and of itself is a sort of a legacy and sort of a path that, you know, a brother like me who's stepping into this post by Allah's permission, you know, I find myself, you know, it's like, how do you measure up? You're walking into a situation that was 30 years in the making, right? And you're going to walk in here and do what? Except serve, right? Because it's easier for me to think about his legacy than my own. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, because he's spent the last 30 years and the laborers, you know, student laborers with him, they've spent the last 30 or so years working to open and establish and maintain and keep up the flag of Islam in this city, right? So my job has to you know, by the help of Allah, is to come in and continue that work, right? So that all of his and their labor and sacrifice is not in vain.
That's right. That's right.
You see? So I don't, you know, legacy. I don't even know how to answer that, because like I said, all I really want is just to do what God put me here to do. I said, Allah, whatever it is you want me to do, just make me to know it. And with your help, I'll be found doing it. If I know it, I can do it. But if I don't know, that's the hard part. Okay, what am I supposed to be doing in this, that? But if you make me to know it, I'll do it or I'll die trying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You know, right now, I'm satisfied to just work on the assignment that I've been given at this point, to try and be a good helper and servant of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his followers in the city of Greensboro and our people in the city of Greensboro, so that, as he said to us recently, we can pluck all we can out of the fire with the time that we have left, which we are all getting the sense now that it's getting shorter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Wonderful. Okay, yes, sir. And on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, Brother Student Minister Reuben Muhammad, we thank Allah for you, your family, and you all sacrifice. This has been a phenomenal interview. You've given us some amazing information as well as inspiration. I can't wait to put this on YouTube. Thank everyone for watching on Facebook, and we're going to put it on YouTube. And we look forward to the comments and the love that we show to our student minister, Reuben Muhammad. May Allah continue to bless you and your family, sir, and the believers of Greensboro. This is
I got one more moment. I just want to give a shout out to my student laborers in Greensboro and the believers in Greensboro. We had a wonderful family day today. And it's not because of the family day I'm saying this, but I thank Allah for them and the way that they have handled me since I've been on the post. With very, very supportive, very patient, very considerate. And I thank Allah for them and the spirit that Allah has put in them to help make my job a lot easier than it could have been. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you again so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.